great to meet you. Like, just was basically a hollowed out, like graffitied shell, and then the former owners just like painstakingly restored it. In the front of the building is like a social services company that works with families who have connecting them with resources for people with disabilities. And one of the big pain points for that was employment opportunities for adults with disabilities. So they started this farm back here called the Old School Farm. And they were originally kind of more of a traditional, like, direct-to-consumer and wholesale farm. And then when the pandemic hit, they just started donating everything they grew. And they've continued to do that since then. So this was actually a restaurant for about 5 or 6 years in the back. And then they shut that down during COVID, and they had all these weddings that were booked in the pavilion. And they needed farm-to-table catering for those clients and asked us if we would take over those contracts. So when we got involved, we were sort of like chatting with them, and there was just so much synergy and shared mission and everything, and we were like, what are you doing with the space? And they were like, what are you doing? Do you need a kitchen? And we were like, yes.
Wow.
So it was just total amazing kismet, and we had always wanted a private dining space, but everything that we'd looked at since the beginning was like cold white box, you know, or like brand new in a strip center, or was going to cost us millions of dollars and all of that. So this was really just kind of an incredible, unique opportunity for us. So this whole area, when we moved in, was a memorial butterfly garden. And we would love to preserve the original intent of that. Lots of things for pollinators, obviously. But it just never has been used, really. And so there was the Miller Rich folks had somebody here who made it their sort of like heart and soul and poured everything into it. And we definitely, I think, made assumptions about who would be continuing to
take care of it,
and
it didn't
there were
happen.
some missed connections.
So what do you, if you could like
dream big,
like your ideal, what would this be like on you wake up in, you know, July, what would this be?
This place has a really amazing history of being a community space.
Are you wanting food here? Are you wanting, yes, okay. Like, do you want to harvest and use it, or you want it to be like a showcase?
Both.
So we're thinking like raised beds plus native plants and pollinators. And it's mostly about experience. Like, do you want to be like, oh my God, have you seen Juniper Green? It is like the most beautiful garden in Nashville. Okay, so how would this benefit you guys?
So, you know, from the beginning, we've been a farm-to-table culinary brand, you know. I really avoided using the word catering as much as possible, because I think it just conjures really sad images for most people. The more areas that we can activate with guests and make like an experience, an additional experience, the better. Even if it's just like you have a smaller event and like we have a cocktail hour in the kitchen garden. And then, you know, like you get married over here, you have a cocktail hour here in the kitchen garden, and then you have your reception in the pavilion. You know, like that's a win.
Like you've added a whole nother room basically to your
It's
space.
Also like photo shoots, you know, and I think it's just also like a talking point. Like every event is telling a story, right? And so like the more we can anticipate that and offer ways of doing that in a unique way, the better. Because like there've never been more event spaces in Nashville than there are right now.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's like exploding.
Okay, so who's like?
And most of them are geared toward, you know, like the largest amount of guests in one space. Right? And like we're not going to compete in that area.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Who is your who are you competing against?
I would say like, so here's what, this is going to sound like cocky and I don't mean it to be.
Yeah.
We spent all of last year looking at who we were competing against, and we got really hung up on like what we don't have or can't do with the limitations of the way that the space already exists, right? Like it's a historic building. We're not like, there's different size rooms inside, whatever. So like we're not going to be able to compete with one giant brand new room that has like luxury getting ready suites, whatever. So we were like, how do we do what we do better than anybody else?
Yeah.
And
so that's what I mean. Is there anyone?
There isn't anybody else.
Oh, cool. That's cool. Okay.
So like
tell me like your client avatar, like your ideal person who's gonna book with you.
So it's primarily women, like vast majority women.
Okay.
And it's a little bit, we've also realized in the last year that it's a little bit different for the venue than it is for the catering company. We're still kind of building the brand around the venue.
Okay.
We've been in business as a catering company for 5 years.
Okay.
And on that end, it is definitely like, a higher net worth individual, people who are willing to spend at a luxury price point to give their guests the best experience. I think the average age of people who book us is in the mid to late 30s through 60s.
Okay, cool. So that's south. So we're doing really well because that means basically even winter sun, I'm sure you've experienced this already, but we don't have anything that's going to block the sun.
Right.
But we're going to put taller things here and here.
Okay.
And then we'll have shorter things like in the front. So one option for this side, if we moved those pollinators, we can keep that. We could just literally keep a path. What I would love to do is do panel trellises all the way.
Oh, beautiful.
Either in raised bed, you could do boxes with panel, or you could just simply line the whole thing with panel. And then that'll give you you'll still be able to see through, and especially in winter, obviously, but it would give a little bit of a barrier. So depending on budget and how much we want to do, these could be blackberry bushes that don't need raised beds, or they could be raised beds that grow vining plants up those trellises. The good part of doing something like a blackberry is it's perennial, so you'd have more coverage long term. Or you could do a pollinator vine that's gonna I would need to check what we would do for sure here, but a coral, honeysuckle, something like that would go up there too. So these could be raised beds. That's one option, attached to these panel trellises, or they could be in ground, depending on budget and what the priorities are for growing. What I recommend for a commercial site for growing a lot of things that people can touch and enjoy and experience is going at least 50% herbs and greens.
Yeah, we love that. There's herbs in literally everything we do.
Yeah, so make this, because herbs are prolific, greens are prolific, they're all
edible flowers would be great.
Okay, because they're all cut and come again. And so a mistake I think a lot of people make in a commercial spot is going for the fruiting plants, focusing mostly on those, because they're great, but you're going to be they're a 90-day thing. Right. You only have a very short window. So if we focused on edible flowers and herbs and greens, and then we could have, you can have boxes, also root crops. You could have a whole bed for garlic. You could have beds for potatoes. I don't know if that interests you, but a potato pulling party is in my book, it's the most fun party to go to. But root crops are also very low maintenance. So after leaves, the next thing that I think works really well for a commercial spot would be roots. Probably tied with that would also be perennial plants. So asparagus patch, that's a 3-year push. You're waiting a long time, but asparagus, rhubarb, strawberries, trying to think, horseradish. I don't know if we can keep that perennial here, but basically we could have some beds that are just literally this is the strawberry bed. This is the garlic bed, or the garlic and onion bed. And those don't like they'll really, you have to set them up at the right time. But once you do that, it's not like you've got to be out here all the time taking care of it. Okay, so let's list out all the things you'd want in this space. Do you want a table or like a seating? Do you want benches? Do you want like seating?
So I think it's always a balance, right, with the event specific thing, in that we want to have some like hint as to how we can use the space and have infrastructure for how we want to use it internally, but also make it malleable for other like designers that come in and want to do something with it. You know what I mean? Okay. So I think
like, would you want like a gravelled, flattened?
I think that'd be amazing. Yeah.
And then like just a space for that. And then do you want it big enough to have like a 12-seater or just a little cocktail table?
I think a 12-seater is good.
Okay.
The other thing too is that we have like 100 tables on the property. So like if we actually want to activate it for like a dinner, we can get modular with what we have and put linens on it and stuff, right? But like as far as something just like living out here, I think it'd be nice to have.
Okay, so big enough for a table.
Yeah. But that table should probably not weigh like 500 pounds so that we can move it if we need to,
Okay.
Because I also think that 12-person table could be, where we do a class or
that's
things
what
like
I was
that.
thinking.
Yeah.
Hands-on kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Any water features like a bird bath or a fountain or... No. Okay.
It's just something to keep up.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we want perennial, we want the native plant perennial for the butterfly garden, right? Honoring that. And it's good for the garden too. So this didn't print very well, but you can look through that and like if there's anything you like, if you want to, this is a smaller one. But like if there's things you like.
Is this something we can keep or we give it back to you?
I can send you this digitally.
Okay, perfect. Please do. I was so excited to hear about it.
And I'll get you one of my next one too.
It's going to be it's one of our table books. You can use it today, paying one in table books.
That's true. They told us we needed props for coffee table books.
So yeah, you'll get a shout out on our
Yay!
Marcher.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Triangle here. That is the garden. So this is the main entrance right here. So this is going to be a focal point, but there's also like a little, like a second entrance here. So what I want to do is do a retaining wall along this. It's either going to be out of wood or stone. And I want to have some little steps here to show the entrance. And then this needs to be basically, I probably should have moved those over. So here, I want there to be an arch trellis to make it clear like this is like the grand entrance. Here, I'm gonna do perennial flowers at the edge, very low. And then we're gonna start low raised beds going alongside so that you can see all the way into the garden. There's nothing like blocking the view. So these are going to be like herb beds all along the edge, right beside flower. So this is going to need like edging. This will be mulch and soil. And then you're going to need like steel edging right here, all along this line. We've got 4 trees really. So we've got one right by the path, or way over there. We got basically 3 we have to look out for. So this is going to be a path here all the way to the entrance. This is going to have perennials in it planted beside the trees. Okay, so now I want this path. Let's pretend like this is straight. I want this path to be open. So she wants seating here, and I think I want the seating to go, I think when you come in, I want the seating to be going across. So I'm wanting the table to go like this, and she wants a 12-seater. So that means I need to fit 5 like that. So that's going to be right there at the center. And my idea was to do a triangle, like a diamond shape in the middle. This is going to be a pathway right here. Over here is going to be panel trellises, and I think I'm going to do steel beds here for something different. So we're going to do steel beds all along this wall. And then I do want to do something special right here in the corner, something tall with like a walkway around it. Then, all right, so we've got our raised beds here. Then in front of these raised beds, we're going to have like a little path. And then we're going to kind of imitate this. Over here, we're going to have short beds. Again, like with herbs and greens. And then I'm thinking, I'm not sure, but I'm thinking there would be still edging here as well with flowers. What I was hoping for is like a diamond here in the middle with paths. So it'd be like something like this. It may not work out to be like symmetrical, but basically creating something where like part of what makes a garden so great is the meandering, like how you have to walk around things. So you want to create enough stuff that there's a lot of movement in the garden where someone can't just like stand in one place and like be at the end right away. You want them to have to grow around things. So, so that's my thought with the diamonds, but I may switch that out. I'm not sure it works with the table. What I'm thinking is on the way to the table, there could be either a small bed right in the center or something circular. I don't want the walkway to be too big, so I think I may, even right on the inside, have some things like this to walk through. So then that leaves this space, which I could do one big raised bed here, and then this space, which I'm thinking we could do something big and circular. I don't know, I'm kind of like playing puzzle here at this point. But that's my initial idea. So we'll see how it turns out, but at least I got something on paper before I leave the space. That's really important when you're doing a design. Like, don't leave the space until you've been inspired with some kind of design. Otherwise, I don't know, for me, I get home and I forget what it feels like. So we'll see what happens.